Rabbi Manis, one of the extraordinary things about Chabad is we spoke once about the fact that they all look the same. You wear the long black coat, you wear black hat, look the same, and you showed me why that was great. But if you look under the Jewish world, there are many, many Jewish groups that wear black hats and black coats. There are many Hasidic groups that have that. And traditionally, the image, the Hasidic image, and the ultra-Orthodox image has been very insular. What Chabad did is you took this visual stereotype and turned it upside down. So not only is Chabad not insular, because you're afraid, God forbid, your children might see somebody at the Shabbat table that drives on Shabbat, and they may get contaminated by Jews who are not frum, right? You went in the whole other direction, where you looked at Jews and you said, you're holy. Every Jew's holy. Even the son of somebody whose father drives on Shabbat. But now I wonder if this is going to get a little delicate, because the world has gone mad. The world has gone mad, like Dennis was hinting at. And I got to tell you, the last couple of years, I've never seen it so mad, so crazy, so upside down. Is there a point where a Chabadnik is going to say, Dayenu, watch out, because maybe the contamination is going to get too close, because you are so open-minded? And then if, some of the stuff that Dennis was talking about, is there a point where we have to be careful who you allow in?
Absolutely not. There is no evil that is stronger than holiness. There's no evil that is stronger than the truth. And to be intimidated by it is the beginning of the fall. It's not intimidating. It's pathetic. It's temporary. It's not gonna last very long, because there's no truth to it. There are two concepts that I see growing rather than fading in today's world, despite all the fake news, bad news, and that stuff. There are two things. Number one is purpose. The question of what is our purpose, why are we here, has become so popular or so necessary that even children are asking. People can get very scared when a 10-year-old says, I didn't ask to be born. Sounds a little scary. Was the kid depressed? Needs therapy? No, he's a smart kid. Didn't ask to be born. This is a very encouraging development. People really want to know, what is the purpose? And religion that is supposed to answer that question has failed miserably. Do this, do that. What's the purpose? We don't know. Make the best of it. The other thing is tikkun olam. I was speaking to a Catholic priest in Crown Heights. He's very popular with the teenagers. He's doing good social work. I asked him, but what theology are you teaching? What are you telling them? He says, I'm telling them that it is their responsibility to make the world better. I don't think that's Catholicism, but it's good news. He says, I'm telling them that it's their job to make the world better. That is really progress. But I said to him, you need to add one little detail. Who really is concerned with the world becoming better? I just want my neighborhood to be safe, The rest of the world, why am I responsible? Who really wants tikkun olam? Not the Creator? Of course, it's the Creator's concern that the world be what it's meant to be. And we are partnering with God in creation. But it's His concern more than anybody else. This guy got so excited. He starts pounding on the table. We were sitting in a restaurant. He starts pounding on the table and he says, I knew it. I knew it. I said, what are you talking about? He says, in divinity school, they were told that the father doesn't really care or get involved. The son does. And that never made any sense to me. Of course the father cares. It's his creation. Who would care more? So these two things that are very popular and growing, the need to know our purpose and the commitment to making the world better. This is like a Mashiach process. And it is very encouraging. And of course, like Dennis was saying, the only place you're going to get an answer to these really significant is if you know that God is real.
Well, Dennis, speaking of purpose, the most popular activity in the Jewish world now is to fight anti-Semitism. And the way you fight it is to raise a lot of money by putting the fear into donors, by having media companies that put fear and alarmism in the headlines, because that triples our clicks. And it is by far the most popular activity. There's a good $200 million a year that is being invested in fighting Jew hatred, right? There are organizations, they email me every day. There's at least 20 organizations, and all they want to do, and they have whether they're called End Jew Hatred, Combat Anti-Semitism Movement. There's a new one that starts every week. They really don't like me because I wrote a piece recently quoting Chabad. The most successful Jewish organization in history has never once demonstrated against anti-Semitism. The Rebbe never once asked his shluchim to demonstrate on the street against Jew hatred. What they do is they spread pro-Semitism. But that's not easy to do. So what do you make of this obsession with fear and alarmism and this thing that has made American Jews look like pathetic whiners? We've lost our sense of humor. Everything that made Jews attractive in the past 100 years, we've now come to this point where we are now becoming known as those who kvetch and only care about themselves.
That's right. That's correct. That's exactly correct. So, first of all, my belief is that the Anti-Defamation League actually increases anti-Semitism more than it decreases it. Number two.
In what way?
In what way? Because it's just another left-wing organization that alienates half of this country by the positions that they take.
No, but when you say ADL, because a lot of what they do is they'll call out anti-Semitism, an act, they'll condemn it, they'll really expose it. Is there a risk when you expose it so much that you may encourage people on the fence to become more anti-Semitic?
The best way for Jews to combat anti-Semitism is to invite a non-Jew to Shabbos dinner. Okay? That's what I've done all of my life. And it works. That's the best way. I started a program many years ago, invite a Gentile to Shabbos dinner, or invite a Christian to Shabbos dinner. I don't remember which term I used. And it never got off the ground because the Jews who knew non-Jews didn't have Shabbos dinner, and the Jews who had Shabbos dinner didn't know any non-Jews. So that ended that program.
It's a tough one.
It was very nice to hear some guy at the Kinnus this year. This was after Kanye West made his famous statements. So this guy went around with a camera, and he interviewed 6 shulchan. Just totally spontaneous. One didn't know the other was being interviewed. And they all came up with the same answer, which was like, yeah. I was so proud of them. Every one of them, in different ways, said, that's what he said. Bring him to the Chabad house. We'll talk. We'll straighten it out. We'll have something to eat. One shliach from Russia said, tell him to come. We'll have a little vodka.
But Manis, I deal with donors every day. I deal with these organizations nonstop. I
feel for you.
talk to the heads of all these groups, and I have to tell you that there's something so seductive about fear and alarmism. It's so seductive. Like instantly, you increase your donations. With fear and alarmism, it's almost human nature, right? We're supposed to be on the lookout for trouble, anything that's got trouble. And I realized that the Rebbe took the long way. He took the hard way, right? It's the hard way. To kind of fight anti-Semitism by building pro-Semitism is so indirect in a way, right? Whereas the other approach feels, well, if you're going to get 200 Jews demonstrating at UCLA saying end Jew hatred, I think I'm going to put my money there. Because it feels more obvious, more direct. Whereas the Chabad way is so much more difficult. And yet the Rebbe decided to take the real difficult way. And this is what...
You know, there was a lot of conversation between the Rebbe and President Reagan. When President Reagan was going to Russia for the first time, the Rebbe said to him, don't criticize communism. Just talk about human rights. Speak to them with the assumption that they believe in human rights. Don't talk down at them, talk up. And that's the whole, go for the truth. Stop being intimidated by the distractions.
There was an incredible moment at Hanukkah. And they got together, the most brilliant marketing minds in the country. I know some of them. And they spend months. They feel they needed to do something at Hanukkah. And they ended up with this campaign called Shine a Light on Anti-Semitism. At the same time that Chabad was shining a light on Yiddishkeit, on the mitzvah of lighting Hanukkah candles. And of course I wrote about it. And then I see the syndrome. Because if I focus on the darkness, I will raise more money. If I focus on the darkness, I'll get more readers for the Jewish Journal. This is not an opinion. It's a fact. Right? And this reflex that you see in America right now, and Chabad goes completely in the other direction. And I think it's really worth noting. And when people ask me, how does Chabad do it? You can't scale it. Because, I said, imagine you come home tonight to your wife and you said, honey, I feel like going to Alaska. Oh, the cruise, that 10-day cruise or the 7-day cruise? No, the 80-year cruise. Right? Like this idea that Dennis was mentioning earlier, where you go halfway around the world. And look, 4 blocks from my house in Casablanca, Rabbi Raskin, one of the very first shliach, right? He passed away, a few years ago. His wife is still there. She's in a building, and it's all Arabs. But she's in a building because there's Jews left, right? The amount of personal sacrifice is just extraordinary. And I think one of the reasons is the Rebbe always took the hard way. It was never the easy way. We're almost done.
Dennis said, if the anti-Semitism started at Sinai, then the solution is Sinai. If you share the Torah, and we're meant to, we were there at Mount Sinai, but we are the messengers to bring that information to you. So what are you so angry about? Listen up.
This
we'll
is
teach you
literally
something.
the only group in Jewish life that would say that. That's why I feel so at home here. You don't hear that elsewhere. It's not my line, we are a messenger who forgot his message. That's the Jewish people in a nutshell. They think their message is the New York Times editorial page. It's the Torah.
And the Jewish Journal editorial page. So, on that note, Chaim Marcus, thank you, and Chaim Kunin, thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. God bless you. Thank you, David Suissa. Thank you, Rabbi Friedman.
We have a Sunday night program for VIPs that you might be interested in. It's informal, it's questions and answers, it's conversation, It's really relaxed, it's really pleasant, enjoyable, informative, and kind of community-like. It's a Sunday night program, there's a Wednesday morning program for the VIPs, and there's a Wednesday night program. All of it just conversation, casual, laid back, unscripted. So join us, take a look, click the link below, and see which of the three suits you best, and join us for some enjoyable conversation.